Before we get started, can we just take a moment to appreciate my upload rate this month? 6 new videos, relatively close in release to each other, and plenty of variety. I'm honestly kind of proud of myself. But anyway, hey guys, James MCD Reviews here. I hope you guys had a happy Halloween, because I certainly did. But now it's time for another Ketchup review, covering all the other movies I saw in October. Smile is the directorial debut of Parker Finn, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. From the trailers, I thought it was just going to be Truth or Dare Part 2, but it was actually kind of decent. It still had several stupid moments, but it did a good job building tension throughout the movie. The paranoia felt by the main character being stalked by something only she can see is kind of gripping. And Sosie Bacon does a good job in the lead role. Like I said, it's got its fair share of stupid shit in it, and it's nothing groundbreaking, but considering how low my expectations were, it was alright. 3.5 out of 5. Clifford the Green Singing Tit, also known as Lyle Lyle Crocodile, is a movie I actually saw in a theater, just me and my girlfriend. I'm not going to spend too much time on this movie because it's exactly how you think it is. It's a generic, magical animal family movie with nothing new or interesting about it. The only time I was genuinely enjoying it were when Javier Bardem was in it. He was a legit charming and likable character, even though he does some pretty horrid things. Other than that, my girlfriend and I were just making fun of it. If you have little kids and you need something to take them to, then sure, this is fine. For everyone else, I'd say skip it. 2.5 out of 5. Amsterdam is directed by David O. Russell, and I know this because one of the actors had to remind me during TTFT's 2-year anniversary livestream. I was pretty interested in this movie from the trailers, and after watching the movie, it was fine, but I'm way more interested in the real story behind it. I feel like the story as it's presented in this movie has interesting elements, but those are all kind of glossed over way too quickly. And the movie's over 2 hours long, so it wasn't for lack of time. Maybe they had other priorities in mind, I don't know. The movie also feels tonally confused. It feels like a Wes Anderson movie, except not as charming or engaging. The editing is also really weird. The way they hold on certain shots makes it feel like they meant to cut in another shot of a character talking, but just forgot about it. So you're kind of just watching this character reacting to something another person is saying. I do think the cast makes this movie. The main trio of Christian Bale, John David Washington, and Margot Robbie all have really great chemistry. But aside from that, it was just kind of a mid-tier movie. Nothing groundbreaking, but nothing god-awful either. 3 out of 5. Werewolf by Night is the directorial debut of composer Michael Giacchino, and it was kinda awesome. It's a bit of a slower burn than you'd expect from an MCU project, but I think that's part of its style and what it's paying homage to. The send-ups to classic Universal monster movies, from the atmosphere to the visuals to the score, everything about it just works so well. I also appreciate that it didn't feel the need to throw in egregious teases and references to the MCU. It was its own self-contained thing, and I love that. At the same time, I'd love to see them explore this corner of the MCU again in another special. In fact, Marvel should use this special presentation format for other characters whose stories don't warrant a 6-episode miniseries. A very solid first outing from Giacchino as a director, and a very solid Halloween special. 3.5 out of 5. Till is directed by Shinone Chukwu and tells the tragic true story of the 1955 lynching of Emmett Till and his mother's pursuit of justice. This movie was pretty decent. It's definitely an Oscar bait film, but it does what it set out to do fairly well. Like most things that are based off real events, I haven't looked into the actual story behind it, but they do really get you to feel for Mammy. They do a good job showing her and her son's relationship. The kid playing her son is pretty good. And when the violent act does happen, it's devastating to watch and see the aftermath of. You look at this poor mother crying over her disfigured son, and you wonder how the hell actual human beings allowed this to happen. And then you get to the end text where it says the anti-lynching act that the story prompted didn't go into effect until March of this year. And as anger-inducing as that is, it's not the least bit surprising. The movie did go on a little long, and it ended kind of abruptly. And although Danielle Deadwyler gave a great performance, the scenes where she has to cry were a bit unintentionally silly. Like my acting and directing teacher says, it was a lot of acting with a capital A. Like this is the scene that would play when they're reading her name at the Oscars. Like I said, it's a solid movie and it's very powerful, just not one that I'm going to revisit often. 3.5 out of 5. Black Adam is the new DCEU movie that I guess is also a sequel to League of Super Pets. Everyone involved in this movie has been hyping it up because the hierarchy of power
in the DC universe is about to change.
I'm not exactly sure what that means. I just want to see a good movie. After all the delays and all the hype, was it good? No. Was it trash? Not really. This movie reminds me a lot of an early DCU movie, both for good reasons and for bad. Plot is one of the most copy-paste origin stories in a superhero movie. You could point to any aspect of this movie's plot, and then point to at least 5 other movies that have done the exact same thing. The dialogue feels like it was written by an AI with a complex. The tone of this movie is also really confused. For a character as angry and murderous as Black Adam, hearing him attempt a cool catchphrase just felt so out of place. Now, for as cookie cutter as this movie is, it's also a pretty fun time. The movie makes the smart choice of focusing most of its attention on action, and it's pretty cool to watch. It's fast-paced, over the top. The effects are pretty hit and miss, but I think that just adds to the corniness of it. The acting is also a bit of a mixed bag. Adam Smasher was getting kind of annoying, and the Kid is one of the worst actors I've seen in these things. But The Rock was pretty good as Black Adam, and Pierce Brosnan was kind of awesome as Dr. Fate. I kind of wish they kept him around. I'd love to see more of him. Apparently, I was the only one on the planet who was surprised by the mid-credit scene. Like, I had heard rumblings of it online, but in the back of my head, I'm like, the studio doesn't have the balls to do this. But they did, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious to see where they'd go with it. I think that's the thing that separates DC from Marvel, that has simultaneously worked for and against them. Whereas Marvel has a straight path in mind towards a single connected story, DC has had no direction and no clear vision, so they've just kind of been throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. And while Marvel has had a more consistent track record, DC is a more interesting specimen at the moment. It's less of a, I want to see what this is all building to, and more of a, I want to see what you do with this character and this storyline. And I think Black Adam is the perfect encapsulation of that mindset. 3.5 out of 5. Also, I thought I'd throw this one in here as like a mini bucket list entry, but I had to watch Boots Riley's Sorry to Bother You for class, and it was pretty good. It dealt with a lot of racial and class issues that are depressingly still prevalent in our world today, but it did so with a comedic, over-the-top, stylistic lens. The movie was really clever and well made. It never felt too preachy with its subject matter. The acting was great, and the visual presentation was really well done. The third act admittedly kind of lost me a bit. I won't give away the twist in case you haven't seen it, but it did seem like a bit of a stretch, even with how cartoonish this movie's world is. But I still had a good time with this movie, and I'd recommend checking it out. 3.5 out of 5. And finally, Terrifier 2 is written and directed by Damien Leone. And good lord. Me and my girlfriend saw this on Halloween night, and it was kind of the perfect way to end the evening. I've never seen the first Terrifier, so I went into this relatively blind, expecting it to be a typical slasher movie, which it kind of was. What I was not expecting was for this to be the goriest movie that I've seen in a theater. The brutal kills in this movie make Saw feel like a VeggieTales episode. This is some creatively sadistic stuff, and the practical effects on display here are outstanding. Also, David Howard Thornton is fantastic as Art the Clown. It's tricky to make a new slasher villain that's original and instantly iconic, but he absolutely does that here. Half the time, it doesn't even feel like a performance. It just feels like he's some crazy person that wandered on set and started annoying everybody. He switches from hilarious to terrifying so seamlessly. It's honestly kind of impressive. The movie is 2 hours and 18 minutes, and for the most part, it moves at a pretty good pace. It keeps the action going while not skimping out on the characters. The third act kind of lost me, though. There were a few moments where it could have ended, and it just chose not to. But I'd still highly recommend this movie. It's not one of the best in terms of horror movies for this year, but it serves its purpose as being a fun, scary movie to watch on Halloween with some friends or loved ones. If you have a weak stomach for gore, maybe sit this one out, but beyond that, I'd say give it a watch. 4 out of 5. And that does it for this month's Ketchup review. Let me know in the comments what you watched this month. Check out my reviews for the Hocus Pocus movies and the Blair Witch Project, and stay tuned for more videos coming soon.